With the questions.
The questions, okay, thank you. So, the first part of this meeting is the suspension of council procedure rules for 15 minutes to allow questions those of the public. Councillor McFarlane, do you have any questions to ask?
Well, Mr. President, would like to go first.
Okay, thank you.
Hello.
Would you like a microphone?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
My question to the councillors. The Supreme Court confirmed the meaning of the law regarding single-sex spaces as being based on biological sex. It has always been the law and is still the law. Public bodies must make sure they make lawful provision for single-sex spaces for reasons of privacy, dignity and safety. How has BDC been reviewing its existing policies and facilities to make sure that they comply with the law?
Thank you. We can give you a partial answer tonight for certain. So, Mr. Armitage, the Chief Executive, wants to answer that question.
Yes, thank you. And I can also confirm that this question has been tabled as a question to Council next week, so we will be doing a full follow-up on this. But in very simple terms, yes, we will be following through on that, although we are awaiting further guidance, and that guidance is something which is going to be relevant to all local authorities and has been in development for quite a considerable period of time. So there is a process we need to follow to make sure we're compliant with the guidance, and hopefully once that is available to us, then we can follow through on that. Now clearly it's easier to make provision in some facilities with a bit more flexibility over things like toilets, but wherever possible we're making sure we're looking at the roles as they've been initially set out and identifying the areas where we feel we will be able to make provision straight away, and other areas where it will be necessary to undertake more detailed work to ensure we are compliant. But it is definitely our intention that we do follow up on the outcome of that particular decision once the full guidance is in place.
Thank you for your question. Would you like any clarification?
Yes, please. For years and years and years, people managed to follow the law. No further clarification was needed. You're either female and you went into the female loos, and you're a male and you went into the male loos. What possible further clarification could be needed?
I don't think you understood really what I was saying there, but we are not, it's not a matter for us to determine whether the law is describing male or female in a particular different direction. What we're talking about is the guidance that is provided on the basis of the interpretation that the courts have been provided. So we are awaiting further guidance about how we should implement that matter, and we have to comply with that. It's not about whether or not we have a particular view about the determination of people's biological sex. That's not a matter for us.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you. Sir Keir Starmer said not a penny more on your council tax, not a penny more than the bill you paid last year. Given his promise to fund local authorities to allow them to freeze council tax, how much additional funding would Bassetlaw District Council require in order to freeze council tax?
Thank you for your question, Councillor McFarlane. Mr. Wildman, are you able to help with that question?
To freeze council tax would cost the council £360,000 a year. That's a 2.99% increase.
Thank you. Do you have any further questions, Councillor McFarlane?
Thank you. With the budget due tomorrow, can the Member for Finance confirm whether the government has indicated whether they're going to provide the necessary funding to provide that freezing council tax?
Councillor Rose.
Yeah, just very briefly, I think we can echo what Michael Wildman has just said, and just point out that this council has and always will follow strict government guidelines on the levying of council tax. And that's happened for many years in my experience, regardless of who has run the administration.
Thank you, Councillor
Thank you. If the funding is not provided tomorrow in the budget, will the Member of Finance accept that this would amount to a broken promise by the Prime Minister?
If the money isn't provided tomorrow in the budget, would you, Councillor Rose, accept that? What was the other question, Councillor Farmer?
It was a broken promise by the Prime
It
Minister.
was a broken promise by the government.
Well, I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know what's coming in the budget, so it's a totally hypothetical question.
Thank you. Councillor McFarlane.
Thank you. At the Council's 2024 budget meeting, I proposed digitising pay slips, moving them online rather than posting, saving approximately £6,000 per year. Councillor Rhodes voted against this. Can you now confirm that the Council are implementing my proposal?
Just for my clarification, Councillor McFarlane, was that the budget you proposed where you suggested that we double all the car parking charges in 2024?
No.
Oh, wasn't it? Which budget was that when you proposed that? Oh, I think it was, Councillor McFarlane. I think it was, but anyway. Did you
I'm not sure of the person in question. We're closer to next year's budget than we are last year's. We are where we are. The council as a whole turned down his amendments quite rightly. Otherwise, as you rightly said, the drivers of Bassetlaw and the shoppers of Bassetlaw will be paying far more about the cars than they are doing now, and the businesses will have suffered accordingly. So I'm not quite sure what the purpose of that question was. It might be an idea, by the way, if people are going to ask questions, if you come and sit on this front row rather than right at the back, makes it a lot easier for everybody.
Thank you. Councillor McFarlane, do you have any other questions? May I ask you to sit a bit further forward? Because it's difficult for
I'll move forward. That's
Much more
fine.
helpful.
At the
If
same...
you come a little bit, I don't want to create a problem, but if you come a bit further forward, it's very difficult to hear.
At the same meeting, I also proposed consolidating all council meetings into a single venue, saving about £2,000 a year. Again, Councillor Rhodes opposed this. Is this proposal also now being adopted?
Sorry, say that again. Please.
At the same meeting, I also proposed consolidating all council meetings into a single venue to save about £2,000 per year. Is this also now being adopted?
Well, actually, if you've noticed, I think all council meetings have been held at a single venue for some considerable time because of the work that's going on at Bradford Town Hall that makes it unfeasible for us to meet there. This may or may not be something that we should continue.
Thank you, Councillor Rhodes. Councillor McFarlane.
If both these cost-saving measures are now being put into place, can Councillor Rhodes inform us how much has this cost the taxpayer by not implementing it back in May 24?
I think we'd have to get a written answer to that question. It's not a university challenge, so I'm not quite sure of the answer.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Lee often speaks about cross-party working at full council and other ideas. In that spirit, would Councillor Rhodes welcome further suggestions from other councillors, including opposition councillors, on potential efficiencies?
Sorry,
In
just
terms
found
of
something going on.
in terms of cross-party working, would you welcome suggestions from members of opposition parties to help make decisions about finance?
Chair, suggestions from opposition parties have always been welcome in this administration. Whether we agree with those suggestions or not is, of course, an entirely different matter. But don't let that put you off making suggestions.
Thank you. Recently, members of this cabinet voted to raise parking charges for residents in Bassetlaw. Do they think it's fair that councillors and senior council staff continue to receive discounted parking permits despite the increase on residents?
But may I just say something before that? You make that as a blanket statement. Not all councillors or staff have a parking permit. Do you have one, Councillor McFarlane?
No.
Case in point, then not all of us do. I don't either.
Well, you answered the question. I mean, it's something that is offered to councils to help them to improve the way they work and help us to carry out our duties. I don't have one either, safety looking. And so it's an option, but it's available to all councillors, regardless of which party. And if some take it, some don't.
And if I might just add one other thing, basic pay for a councillor is somewhere in the region of £5,000. I think councillors are not paid a hefty wage in this council, so it helps offset their parking. And if a councillor is parking somewhere and has to pay for parking, then they are entitled to pay it back. It actually works out cheaper for the council for people to have parking permit, which they pay for.
Okay. And the final question, to avoid any perception of two-tier pricing, residents, staff and council should all pay the same rate for parking. Does Councillor Rhodes agree with that?
Two-tier price?
Yeah.
I don't understand the details of the question, but there is no two-tier price.
Thank you.
Councillor McFarlane, would it be possible for you to let the clerk have your questions so that he's
Yeah.
got them accurately? Thank you. Yes.
Could I return to the first question around women's safety, please? You asked, or you stated, Mr. Armiger, you're waiting for guidance. Given the law is the law, who are you waiting for guidance from? And in the meantime, are women safe under Bassetlaw District Council?
Could I ask Mr. Jackson if you would like to respond to that, please?
Yes. There has been some temporary guidance provided to us on the Equality Commission to help us apply the law in a correct way. Their guidance went to government in September, and we expect final guidance from public bodies to ensure that we apply the law in the right way, to ensure that we respect the dignity and safety of women and girls. So it's really important that we do wait for this guidance. We are expecting it shortly to make sure we make the right decisions in the right way. And I believe we're going to be discussing it at the next council meeting, the third of September.
Yes, thank you. As you said, there is a question, there's actually a motion in the next council meeting which will cover this even more detail. And perhaps we'll have guidance from the government by that time, I don't know. You did ask another question about whether or not women are safe in the Bassetlaw District Council. My entire career before becoming a councillor was in criminal justice. You will agree with me, I'm sure, that women are in more danger of men that they know in terms of murder, assault and rape and sexual abuse than they are in toilets. So part of what we are doing with Bassetlaw District Council is working with our partners to try and ensure women's safety across the board. It's not just about one thing. 3 to 4 women are murdered every week by their previous or current partner. There are a lot of dangers for women. And it's very important that we work with our partners to try and minimise that as much as we can.
Lovely speech, but slightly evasive.
That's your opinion, but
It
I
certainly
think
is.
the safety of women is incredibly important.
I'm
It's
delighted to hear
not
that.
And I think it's far more important than just thinking about one issue. There are so many issues where women are in danger. Thank you for your questions. Are there any others? No? Thank you very much. So if we move to the agenda proper, can I ask for apologies for absence, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just one apology received from Councillor Shaw.
Are there any declarations of interest by members or officers?
Can I confirm, Chair, that in terms of item 14A, the majority of officers other than the chair, the clerk, Mrs. Jackson and myself will leave the room because they're all implicated in the outcome of that decision.
Thank you. So then, can we move to the minutes, please, of the meeting held on the 14th of October 2025 on pages 7 to 20? Are there any issues anyone wants to raise? Can I agree that they're a true record? Thank you. And then if we move to the outstanding minutes list on pages 21 to 24, are there any comments or questions about the outstanding minutes list? Thank you. And then if we move to the forward plan on pages 25 to 42, again, are there any questions or comments? No, thank you. So then can we move to item 7A on the agenda on page 43? This is the local government reorganisation in Nottingham and Nottinghamshire, the submission of the final proposal to government. Are there any, Mr. Armitage, would you like to say anything on this?
I think the first thing is obviously, I think virtually everybody here was at council last night where there was a range of views put forward in terms of those proposals, and I know cabinet members had listened to those sort of views. The key point to put across about this proposal as standalone, it is a matter for cabinet to make this decision. The guidance is very clear that it is an executive decision. The way the process will follow is depending on the outcome of the debate tonight and the consideration of other authorities. There will be a single submission made on behalf of the group, let's call it the 1E group, which will be made by Mansfield District Council on our behalf in time for the deadline, which is the 28th of November. So that's the sort of the process that we will be following in terms of the actual procedure itself. We will then obviously be dependent on the response from government as to their consideration of the issues put forward across the whole of Nottinghamshire and indeed the whole country, at which point we will then see some public participation that the government will run. There will be a consultation exercise they undertake, which will then form the basis of the proposals that are finalised for the outcome of this process. The key for me on that basis is, irrespective of the way the final proposal is determined, we will need to be working with all other local authorities in Nottinghamshire, indeed with partners across Nottinghamshire, to deliver the best outcomes for residents of the whole of Nottinghamshire and for businesses in Nottinghamshire. And that work will commence fairly soon, so that we can start to lay the ground for the proposals that are responding to the government's proposals. And so therefore, I suppose, I don't want to disappoint people, but the hard work is only just beginning.
Thank you, Mr. Armitage. Has anyone else any comments or questions? So if I just briefly reflect last night's debate, a number of people wanted to go for option 1E, which is a new unitary council in the north of the county, consisting of Bassetlaw, Ashfield, Mansfield, Gedling and Newcastle councils. Whilst a works created in the south, consisting of Nottingham City, Worksop and Worksop, there were over 11,500 residents in Nottinghamshire who expressed a preference. And of the people who expressed a preference, 1 in 3 thought that the division of the county virtually in half was the most sensible of all the options. I will reflect back that I know that all of the Conservative group except one and all of Reform felt that we should reject the LGR in its entirety. But as I said last night, that would mean that we don't have a place at the table at all. It would mean that we would have no influence at all about how LGR affects our population, and that cannot happen. We are not an independent district who can ignore the rules and the rule of law. So we have to have a place at that table. Councillor Rose.
LGR's happened because the government's deemed it's going to happen. And our role as a council is to make it happen, not stick our heads in the sand or our fingers in the ears and go away. There's been an awful lot of work done by yourself, leader, and the chief officers on this council, on LGR. There's a lot of cross-party cooperation actually with other councils as well. And it's quite clear, as we said, I think in the debate last night, that option 1E is quite easily the best option for the people of Bassetlaw. And in the end, that's what matters the most. As I said last night, it's not about politics, not about positions, not about whether people in the councils again for 2017. That's not the issue. It's the best deal for the people of this district. And I think therefore there's no other show in town.
Yeah, just to echo the comments of my colleague and to strictly what I said last night at full council. I want to pay tribute to the lead, our leader, Julie Lee, for really leading on the front, because when these proposals were published, we potentially faced the prospect of being subsumed into a Nottinghamshire-wide council, which none of us in Bassetlaw wanted. And that's why we fought really hard to get a north-north solution, which is the option that's encompassed best in 1E. I also want to say that as someone who's been in council previously in a unitary in a number of Lewisham, I would recommend moving towards unitary status, because the one thing that I've found since being in council in the district is that although we have important powers such as planning and housing and refuge collection, you know, we still have to work with another authority when it comes to the appalling state of our roads, whether it comes to the education of our children, as well as the care of our elderly. And I think moving towards unitary will be basically best for residents, because they know where the accountability is and where it ends. So I fully support the option for 1E. Thank you.
Yeah, you know, I've been looking at these options we put forward, and I think it's been said this is the best option for Bassetlaw. I thought we lived in Gedling, and I'm well aware that people of Gedling that I know that still live there think it's the best option for Gedling. My understanding is Mansfield and Newark also feel the same way. So it's not just the best option for Bassetlaw, it's the best option for the people within the new authority. We have to take that into consideration. There was talk about a referendum, which I was at the council meeting, which would cost we don't know how much. And we know in the real world, not fantasy world, that the referendum would do nothing, it would cost money, and it wouldn't change any result. I'm really encouraged by the way, through your leadership, leader, and leaders of other authorities, being able to work together to come up with this decisive decision that this is what we want to do. I know that, I don't know, mention Steve's name, but I know that Steve Brown's done an awful lot of work in the background, and there's a huge amount of work done in a very relatively short amount of time. We look at the papers and the pages and the analysts and the PricewaterhouseCoopers summaries. You can't read that up and start again from scratch. So I think we've grasped the nettle. We're going to do this, it's going to be better for the public. I hold surgeries, and I often get people coming to me about potholes, and I have to go and look where they are, because if they tell me it's a pothole, I have to go out and see if it's deep enough, if it's wide enough, and reports to the county council, or refer them to the county council. There's other issues where members of the public aren't sure who provides which service, and I think this will give clarity to that role. And I know we'll make it work because we've got a positive attitude, we're moving in the right direction. And I know that people of Bassetlaw can trust what we've done, what you've done, leader. So I'm fully endorsed 1E. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Brown, I'm going to come to you last, because you have a huge amount of experience, you've done a lot of work in this. I've just noticed that Councillor Richardson, you've got to speak.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to clarify, last night I gave a fairly detailed speech in terms of, you know, what I can only really describe as gaps and concerns in the local government reorganisation process. And those concerns were around savings, the economic impact of the loss of some of the spend, the lack of clarity around transition funding, and the aged time, some of the data that's being used. You know, our team had a free vote I voted the way I voted last night because I've got great concerns about the process, and I've also got great concerns about the impact on my ward, which is Rampton. So I'm not so naive that I would draw a conclusion that just because I voted in that way we wouldn't have a seat at the table, because I knew it would be outvoted. So I just want to clarify that. You made your point and I'll make mine. Thank you.
My apologies if I wasn't clear. I wasn't saying that you wouldn't have a seat at the table. I was saying Bassetlaw wouldn't have a seat at the table if we didn't go ahead with this. Are there any other questions or comments?
We have no choice whether this is going to go ahead. You know, this is a nationally pushed programme. Again, I'm not so naive to think that. So again, thank you.
You're absolutely right. This is going ahead. Therefore, we need to have a seat at the table, and it is possible. Mr. Brown, after your 38 years of service to council, which I will not let you forget, and we'll talk about later in this meeting, and the amount of work you've done on LGR, I would really value your views.
Thank you, Chair. I think really everything was said last night that needed to be said on this. Ultimately, it is obviously a political decision, and therefore I think it's not appropriate for me to comment. And I thank members last night for their comments and recognition of my service. I would just say a big thank you to all of my colleagues. I've been fortunate to be on this full-time, solely concentrating on local government reorganisation for the last couple of months. My colleagues have done a huge amount of work in the background to support this and concentrated on the day job. I do know, having worked with all colleagues across Nottinghamshire, everybody is focused that service continuity remains a priority throughout this process, and that cannot fail from day one. We're not going into the unknown because local government reorganisation has been done elsewhere in the country, so there's a lot of learning that we can come from. But I know, irrespective of our different views on the options across Nottinghamshire, everyone remains focused that the services to the community are the primary focus moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Are there any other comments or questions before we move to vote? So, colleagues, the recommendations are on page 53, 7.1, 2 and 3. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you very much. This now needs to go to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, who are meeting upstairs. And Councillor Slater is going to attend that with Mr. Roger, and then come back to the meeting this time afterwards. Thank you. So, if we now move to item 7B, which is Vision 24 Refresh, on page 109. Mr. Taylor, would you like to present?
Thank you. This report presents a refresh of the Council's Vision 2040 document, which was originally produced back in 2024. The revised document is very much a refresh to reflect the changing situation that there has been since 2024, not least of which is local government reorganisation, as we have just heard. But also the evolution of the East Midlands Mayoral Combined County Authority. So the proposed new vision, subject to discussion this evening, will then go on to full council in December for full council to debate and adopt. And it's very much built on the original pillars within the Vision 2040 document, with an amendment to include transformation as a significant theme, just to make sure that what is in this document is actually delivered in the most efficient way that it can do. So that's the new further pillar that has been built into the document. The whole document itself is laid out from page 113 onwards. And it absolutely looks at what's been achieved over the last 2 years, looks at what the deliverables are in the next period when Bassetlaw remains as Bassetlaw District Council, but then really importantly looks at the legacy beyond and the work that we want to do going into the new unitary authority that there will be after local government reorganisation. The draft of the document was presented at Review and Scrutiny Committee and has gone through that process as well. Comments and feedback have been built into the documents here for the members this evening. So that's just a short overview. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'd like to add, this document is looking at the bread and butter of what we do as a council, which is important, but it's also looking at some huge differences from delivering the country's first prototype vision energy plans in this person to hosting the groundbreaking energy secure data centre at Custom. Our district is becoming a national leader in clean energy, innovation and high-tech industries. Those projects and the major investment that comes with that will make a massive difference to the people of Bassetlaw. It might be said that we should only have a plan that goes for the next few years, but I think taking into account what I was saying before about I want Bassetlaw's voice to be heard, because Bassetlaw won't exist soon, but I still want us and our legacy to be really important and to make that huge difference that we are anticipating for our children and our grandchildren. Not only that, there is a lot of partnership working with the central government, with the East Midlands Mayor particularly, who has put a lot of resources into Bassetlaw. We are, again, doing very well in terms of funding for the East Midlands Mayor, much better than some of the councils. I'm sorry for them, but it's important to us that we get the funding that we need for this. On top of that, there's major initiatives like the Safe Streets programme, which will help the safety of women and children. And there's already been some, I know that the councillors talking about that left, but there was a case not so very long ago where someone believes that they were safe from being raped by pressing the alarms that we have in some of our town centres, and she got immediate help. There's the creation of the Health and Wellbeing Hub in the town centre, the redevelopment of the Priory Centre in Worksop, which is there's a lot of work going on in the background for the Priory Centre, and we'll start to see that work ongoing soon. Colleagues, have you got any questions or comments? Councillor Scott.
Chair, this is a very important document that it's right that we look at it again and carry on looking at it. It's a working document that evolves with Bassetlaw, and for us to evolve it and keep evolving it means that we take it forward into LGR and make sure that we're in the best possible position. I believe that some of the things that was put in this has shaped this council to what it is now and puts us in a very strong position going forward. And I'm quite happy to see that they're looking and reviewing this all the time. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Scotland. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Evans.
If I look at page 119, identity, and I look at the transition ambitions, and the second point there is support rural communities and parishes through increased engagement and active participation in coordination with local neighbourhoods. That's a very grand statement. I don't know how I'm going to deliver on that, but I'll be watching closely. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, on page 121, I mean, again, just building on that, we are using some rather big language here. I keep hearing this word supercluster. It's something that I've raised over the scrutiny. Many people in Rampton Ward don't know about the supercluster, they don't understand it, and I don't think they've seen hardly anybody from STEP, and they certainly haven't seen the East Midlands Mayor. So again, I'm just urging everybody to keep the consultation and some of the communication local, because these are big words and we have to find a way for this to resonate with the local community, the Bassetlaw community and the rural community. And I'm still not seeing evidence of this rural community element being tackled. The other thing I'm concerned about, it's detailed in this document, is I am concerned about the skills deficit and how we're going to inwardly attract some of the skills that we need to run what is the Step Fusion programme and to develop these modular nuclear reactors and provide all of the support services. There's been a migration of a lack of engineering skills within Bassetlaw for some time. We need to bring that back if these programmes are going to be delivered. And I do think the massive growth that we're going to have in population is going to affect health inequalities and is going to affect housing. And I think there needs to be an ambitious programme to tackle some of these things alongside these grand words. So it's not a criticism, it's an observation. I just think we need to have our feet on the ground and begin to look at some of these things. And I don't think some of these things are adequately described. I'm not saying they're not being tackled, but adequately described in the strategy that I'm seeing in the document. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. So a number of good points there. So in terms of us getting the message out, it goes out quite regularly on social media. But you're right, not everybody sees social media, so some people don't pick that up. Certainly in my ward, when I'm knocking on doors, I talk to people about it all the time, and I talk about the effect that's going to have on their children and grandchildren. So sometimes it's word of mouth and social media. In terms of the skills deficit, there has been an awful lot of work done on that, and I think maybe Councillor Adams and Mr Taylor will be able to enlighten you, because again, working with partners like East Midlands Mayor, and there are projects ongoing across the whole of the East Midlands, which again, it would be really good if, I know I make this offer a lot, but you can talk to me, you can talk to cabinet members, because we should all be here, not for this broken Bassetlaw stuff that I keep hearing, but to actually make a real positive difference in Bassetlaw. Bassetlaw isn't broken, but you know, if we are here and we are working hard to make that difference together, that would be good. Mr Taylor or Councillor Adams? Councillor Adams first.
Councillor Richardson, as we discussed last night, more than happy to outreach with officers of the council, specifically into the Ranton area, to look at what opportunities these projects bring, and we'll work very closely with you.
Yeah, just a few points. Yeah, supercluster, what does it mean to local people? That is something that we've identified that there needs to be greater engagement on. So we've actually worked with East Midlands Mayor and East Midlands Mayoral Combined County Authority and have secured some funding which is enabled or will enable our neighbourhood planning team to be then going out and doing an engagement exercise more broadly within affected communities and sort of in that whole Trent Valley area. So that's something that has been recognised. It is something, say, we need additional funding to be able to do it properly. So we have secured that, which is really good news. On the skills side of things, we have used what was UK Shared Prosperity Fund money, which was government money that was channeled our way over recent years, and we undertook a skills audit. So that was reaching out to all businesses across the whole of Bassetlaw to understand their position in terms of vacancies they've got, their skills needs at the moment, their skills needs going forward. We've engaged with the likes of UK Atomic Energy Authority, Industrial Fusion Solutions and those other big players to identify what is going to be needed. So we've got this really solid audit base at the moment and are working through a strategy and action plan to actually bring that to life. So we hosted about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, an event at the British Skills Hub, which brought education providers, the Combined Authority and a whole range of others together to actually collectively take that whole process forward. So there's an awful lot of work that's happening behind the scenes to mobilise, because there is a huge step change that needs to happen, excuse the pun, from where we are now with the local skills provision to what it needs to be to capitalise and make sure the local people are the ones who benefit from the huge opportunities coming our way.
Thank you, Mr Taylor. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Paul.
Yeah, I understand what Councillor Richardson was saying about some of the challenges, but it's a real opportunity. We've got this project, this STEP project, which is, if you like, a national initiative to do something different. It's got backing of government. There's going to be an awful lot of money coming to this. We've got on page 120 talking about some of the things that we've done already on a 4-year basis. This has to expand beyond this. We're in a unique position in Bassetlaw in terms of having this opportunity. And it will provide jobs, it will provide work, and it will provide high quality, high paid work. You're right, there's a deficit of people not being able to do those jobs, or apprenticeships and things within this here as well. But I think with the initiative being a national initiative, it will attract people to come into the area, and there's spin-off industries and things of that nature. The first part of the STEP project is the building project, and that itself will create jobs and employment and give a bit of a boost to the economy. So, challenges, yes, some of the things you mentioned are absolutely right. Communication is key. Communication is always key. I think that's one thing that the new after local government organisation, the new authorities will have to grasp that. And I hope, and I believe, with other parts of the same authority, which at the moment Mansfield and Nashville and things like that, it will actually bring wealth and prosperity to them as well, because it will be an awful lot of new thing. So I see it as an opportunity as much as a challenge. So I'm optimistic about it.
I mean, just to clarify, and I've said this publicly, I'm all for STEP. I'm all for modular nuclear reactors in the former Coston Power Station. I'm all for it. Having worked up in North Notts, working on the withdrawal of the coalfields and supporting businesses that have suffered economic impact from the withdrawal of some of those industries, I do see the massive benefits. I just think there's a number of lines that need to come together to support these things and make it happen. I do see, and I'm very involved with the whole Trent Valley area, I do see a massive opportunity, but I think the point is the key is just to get that dialogue, that consultation, that very grounded local consultation right, and I've got no doubt that these initiatives will be well received. That's it, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this matter? So the recommendations are on page 111, and it is 6.1, Cabinet approve the proposals in the revised council plan and Vision 2040, and this is forwarded to full council for approval. All in favour? Unanimous. Thank you very much. So if we now move to item 8A, which is the report for the member housing estates and housing services asset management plan, and Councillor Rose, I understand that you're also this one.
Yes, on behalf of Council Trooper. The Housing Services Asset Management Plan, the purpose of the report is for members to approve the Housing Services Asset Management Plan 2025 to 2030. One of the main aims of the Housing Service is to take a proactive approach to long-term management and maintenance of the Council's housing stock. And on the 1st of December 2020, Cabinet approved the Housing Service Asset Management Plan for a period 2020 to 2025. This plan has now been reviewed and a new plan which is attached on Appendix 1 has been prepared for the period 2025 to 2030. An asset management plan is a strategic planning document that will sit alongside other key planning documents for the housing service, including a housing strategy, the HRA business plan, the risk management plan, and financial budgets and forecasts. By applying good asset management practices and principles, Bassetlaw District Council will ensure that its housing stock meets current and future needs, including planning for investment in repair and improvements, and reviewing and changing the stock portfolio to match local circumstances and housing needs. Modern asset management practices can also enable more efficient and effective resource development, deployment, service modernisation, long-term financial planning, and improve the risk management. The plan will therefore ensure that the housing service takes a proactive approach to the long-term management and maintenance of the housing stock. 10 overarching objectives for the housing service in respect of the maintenance and investment needs of the council housing stock have been identified within the plan and are set out in paragraph 3.8 of the report. They've been identified as a response to the National Housing and Asset Management Agenda. The aims and objectives contained within the council plan and in response to tenants' priorities highlighted throughout regular and ongoing engagement. The asset management plan also includes key information in relation to the type of assets currently held by the council, future needs and the resources available to the council to meet these aims. The council as a landlord has a statutory, regulatory and legislative requirements it must comply with in respective areas of landlord and tenant law. Asset management and compliance and therefore will contribute to ensuring that any risks associated with the management of the council housing stock are effectively identified and managed. By ensuring that the investment made in the existing stock and that the estate environment in accordance with the stock and condition survey will mean that it continues to meet the regulator of social housing's consumer standards, the current decent home standard, any future decent home standard, and that tenants are in tenants' homes in a reasonable state of repair, have access to modern facilities, are warm, safe, and free from hazards and risk. It's important, Chair, to note that the plan does not set out to determine individual projects for improvement and in what year they'll be undertaken. These and any financial implications will be determined through discussions with and reports to Cabinet as part of the Housing Revenue Account business planning and budget setting process, which are reported to Cabinet annually in February. Chair, the recommendation is at paragraph 6.1 of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rose. Mrs. Craig, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add, Chair, but very happy to answer questions. Gary Smith, who's our Property and Development Manager, whose team leads on stock investment and stock condition, is also here this evening to answer any questions if necessary.
Thank you. Welcome to this committee, Mrs. Smith. I don't think we'll ask you too many difficult questions, but let's see. Are there any questions or comments about this report? No, we've been through this very, very fully previously, so thank you for attending. Sorry if you were waiting with bated breath to answer questions. So, in that case, can we move to page 1386.1, that members approve the Housing Services Asset Management Plan 2025 to 2030? All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you very much. So, if you then move to item 9A on the agenda, the report of the Cabinet Member of Identity Planning in Place, Councillor Scott on supplementary planning documents.
Thank you, Chair. Over the past year, the Cabinet has approved a number of draft supplementary planning documents for public consultation. This sustained programme of work brings us to a significant milestone this evening. For the first time in 10 years, I am pleased to present 7 supplementary planning documents for formal adoption. These documents address a comprehensive range of planning policy matters, including affordable housing, infrastructure contributions, biodiversity, healthy placemaking, houses of multiple occupation, householder extensions, and a new district-wide design code. Collectively, they will play a vital role in ensuring the future housing and employment growth across Bassetlaw is well designed, appropriately located, and effectively integrated with our existing towns and villages. They will also help us manage the impacts of development on local infrastructure and the natural environment, ensuring that growth is delivered in a way that protects the quality of life of our communities. Adopting these SPDs will provide clear and consistent guidance on how local plan policies should be interpreted and applied. They will set out the information required to accompany planning applications, and importantly, once adopted, they will become material planning considerations in the determinations of applications and at appeal. This will give developers, decision makers and residents greater clarity and transparency regarding planning expectations and outcomes. I would also like to place on record my sincere thanks to Karen and the officers who have undertaken this detailed, complex and sustained work required to bring these documents forward. Their professionalism, diligence and commitment have been essential to reaching this point. Chair, these documents represent a substantial and carefully considered body of work. Their adoption will strengthen our planning framework and support the delivery of sustainable, high-quality development across the district. I therefore commend the 7 supplementary planning documents to Cabinet and support the recommendations set out in paragraph 6.1 to 6.3. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Scotland. Ms Johnson, do you have anything to add?
There's just one point, Chair. In the interest of transparency, we've spotted that there's a non-material error in the design code consultation statement. One representation hasn't been shown, which we'd like to rectify. It is a non-material amendment, and we'd be able to rectify it in that way.
Thank you. So I'm assuming that you're going to change the document and when it's published.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for doing that. Thank you. So are there any comments or questions on this answer? Councillor Richardson.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, having done a piece of work on this myself in another area, I do commend the supplementary planning document around design code. I think that's a very valid document, particularly useful to rural communities and communities that are adjacent to conservation areas. So I do commend that piece of work. Can I just make one other comment and observation? I do think in the future, I may not be at the next meeting, but before I forget, I do think it's an opportunity to look at supplementary guidance around renewables and the expansion of green energy in our rural area. I think that's a piece of work that the District Council could look at prior to LGR, so I'm happy to talk to you about that separately, if that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. Do you respond to that?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. That would be really useful. I believe that might be a point that's coming up at the next council meeting as well, so I'll probably leave it for that for now, but yeah, I always happy to have a conversation.
I think from memory that's in your motion, isn't it?
Yes, it's the start.
It was a long motion, yes.
Yeah, it's the start.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I'll keep trying.
Any other comments or questions? I think we are blessed in many of our offices in Bassetlaw. You, Karen Johnson, being one of those officers who have done many excellent pieces of work across the years. This being another one, so thank you. These supplementary documents are incredibly important in terms of making sure that people who apply for planning permission do so in the full knowledge of what they can and what they can't do, and there's no leeway so that people can try and get away with things. But these were excellent documents, thank you very much. There are no other questions? Sorry, Councillor.
Yeah, I think the thing about this as well, it means that people can't challenge us if some reason refuse it. I know it's pretty obvious that that's part of it, but if somebody goes outside this document and we refuse it and they then challenge us to save us money by having it.
Absolutely. Thank you. If we go to the recommendations on page 199, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Then if we move on to item 10A, that's the report of the Cabinet Member for Growth and Financial Services and Cabinet Member for Strategy and Communications. That's myself and Councillor Rose. Councillor Rose is going to take this one.
Chair, thank you. Cabinet's previously received separate quarterly reports for performance updates and budget monitoring. This new format report brings together the two key areas in one place. This allows for greater alignment between the two areas and provides Cabinet with a more rounded picture of how a service is performing. Quarter 2 report covers a period to 30th of September 2025. The key performance indicator scorecard shows that there were 15 green, 8 amber and 3 red KPIs at this table. Table 1 of the report shows that quarter 2 forecast position for the general fund is a surplus of £97,000. A summary for each service area includes an explanation of budget variances and performances against KPIs. Notable variances include an increase in the staff vacancy factor, which now meets the additional cost of the pay award, increased investment income and increased costs of running the waste collection service. The 2025-26 budget included savings proposals totaling just over £1 million. On the 30th of September, £280,000 worth of these proposals have been achieved, with a further £715,000 on track to deliver in full in this financial year. Less than 1% of saving proposals have been identified as being undeliverable. The Quarter 2 Live Capital Programme totals 91 million, and Table 7 includes information on the progress of key schemes, including Newgate Street surgery, private centre redevelopment and decarbonisation works. The Council's recently received an independent financial assessment from LG Improve, and I'm very pleased to be able to report this confirms a strong and resilient financial position. The review highlights significant progress made during 2024-25, particularly the growth of usable reserves. While there's been a modest reduction in net assets and equity, the Council's balance sheet remains fundamentally robust. External borrowing has been reduced, leading to lower interest costs and improved financial efficiency. These improvements are reflected in this latest quarterly report. Although equity has gradually declined over the past 3 years, this trend has not impacted the Council's financial integrity. On the contrary, the combination of rising reserves, prudent debt management, and strategic capital planning demonstrates a sustainable and forward-looking financial strategy. These findings reinforce the Council's ability to invest confidently in its priorities, maintain high-quality service delivery, and respond effectively to future challenges. With a clear budget strategy in place to close the funding gap by March 2029, the Council is well positioned to continue delivering for its residents, businesses and communities. In closing, Chair, as ever, I'd like to pay tribute to the finance team led by Nick and Karen, who do a remarkably good job for this Council, and draw members' attention to the recommendations shown under Section 6 of this report.
Thank you, Councillor Rice. Ms. Leggett, have you anything to add?
Nothing like thank you, Chair, but I have to take questions.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions for anyone? No? I think I would echo your comments about the finance team, Councillor Rose, and it goes back to my comments earlier on the fact that we are blessed with some very excellent officers in Bassetlaw. I would like to just point out one error, and my apologies because I have read this and I missed it the first time round. In the recommendations, the 6 recommendations, if you look, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 5. If you just change that, please.
I do apologise.
That's all right. Nobody would like to be perfect. So, colleagues, the recommendations are on page 219, 6.1 to 6.6. All in favour. Oh, and actually, sorry, my apologies, colleagues. There is one issue that we need to discuss further. There are some performance indicators that are red, and we can either choose to ignore those, or I would suggest we choose to take them back to our respective directorates and deal with those officers. So on point 6.2, can I suggest that we go with item A with any further action that's required to address those performance, and so we'll go back to our respective officers. So with that in mind,
Yes, Chair, can I just say that we get reports from James Hill every cabinet and we never send anything back. Can we just send our gratitude for all the hard work they put in and sending these forward reports forward? I have sat on that committee before I came as cabinet member and they don't work very hard. And it's good to see all the staff and unions and everybody working together to